Hi, Karen Doyle Buckwalter back again with another tip from Raising the Challenging Child, which is now available in paperback. And I also want to remind you that we have a study guide that can be used. It's actually a Christian-based study guide that could be used in a small group at church or somewhere like that. The book itself is a secular stance because I wanted anyone who reads it to be able to relate to it, but we do have a study guide if that would be something that would interest people that you could check out. Anyway, the tip for today is changing up the dance. And this is one of a phrase that I use from what I learned from Harriet Lerner and Bowen Family Systems Theory and the book, The Dance of Anger. I recommend that book to everybody. If you haven't read it, I suggest you read it. But the concept is that because relationships and family systems operate as a system, like if you do this, I do this. If you do this, I do this. That if we change our own behavior, others have to change their behavior. So think of it this way. If you're ballroom dancing doing the waltz and you suddenly switch to the tango, then the person is not going to be able to continue doing the waltz. And how this relates to relationships is many times we get into a dance or a very rigid cycle with a child, and we don't realize that we're in a very negative cycle with them, and they do this, and then we do this, and they do this, then we get upset, then they do this, and we yell at them, and then they yell back, and then we send them to their room, and there's this cycle that happens. So the idea of changing up the dance is basically just do something different. So in the example I just gave you, instead of the parent continuing to argue back and forth with the child and kind of escalate the situation, the parent could say something like that, you know, I think this is going to be one of those times where we get into a shouting match with each other and we both say things that we really wish we hadn't said. So I'm going to propose that we just go for a walk right now instead and not talk. Or I'm going to propose we stop everything right now and try to just do something fun. Or I'm going to propose I'm going to take my new magazine to my room, just read it for 5 or so minutes. You can even come in there with me if you want, bring something to read, and then maybe we can talk about this more. So any way that you can interrupt that cycle of escalation, that same old dance that you get into, by putting a new step into the dance that I'm suggesting here in a variety of different ways, is some kind of pause to being on autopilot with each other and getting into that negative cycle that you get into. And this also is very true for couples. You can do something different as a couple that will interrupt a negative cycle and produce often a different outcome. So that is the tip for today I wanted to share with you, changing up the dance.